Quebec, Canada, fighting Troy the Destroyer Dorsey, 12 rounds for the World Super Lightweight Championship.
What are you going to do now as far as kickboxing?
First, I want to thank God. Say hello to my wife, Shelly and Kendra. Happy birthday, Shane. And thank all of my instructors and students at my school. Now, pick up kickboxing and boxing both again and go after a world title.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
The winner and still Hurricane World Super Lightweight Champion of the world, Troy the Destroyer Dorsey!
Hello, everyone. Today we have Mr. Billy Smith joining us. The Gloves Could Talk. Thank you for being here. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. And also thank you very much for coming.
Them, don't we?
Number two.
Yeah,
Number
well,
two.
Thanks for having me back. I don't know if I was enough for the first time or I was enough that we enjoyed it, so you want to have me back again. So.
That's it, exactly. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well,
Yes,
I'm glad to be here, man. And, we're just neighbors. I'm Alvarado right here, and here we are in Mansfield.
Yes, sir.
Only thing between us is Venus.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the planet's Saturn. But other than that, we're good.
Yeah. So they got a couple of questions here I'd like to talk to you about. So, what's your favorite story about me? Now, I know it's probably going to be hard to find, but your favorite.
It's hard to single out just one.
Okay, well, maybe we might venture into two or three.
But Ginger said, make sure you talk about this story. So, we're going to go back to the U.S. Tournament in Dallas.
Okay.
And
U.S.
Mr.
Karate
Steen.
Championships.
And then they had promotions that day.
Okay.
They had Mr. Kerbin got promoted to his 10th from Mr. Steen.
Okay.
And I think Jim was going up for something before he had knee surgeries.
Right.
Of course, they fell out from under him a couple of times.
Oh, they have, yes.
But
sir.
there was, if you remember, there was one young gentleman about your size, and he was part of his promotion, his test was he was going to get to spar. Well, his guy didn't show up. So I remember you got Mr. Bramer. It was nice of you to do, and took him up there and set him at the test board with the rest of the grandmasters and stuff. And you were sitting there, and the guy, the announcer that was doing the test, he said, well, his fighter didn't show up. He says, is there anybody here that would like to be his sparring partner?
And what year was this? Do you remember?
Oh, my goodness. It wasn't all that long ago. I'd say maybe 5, maybe less. But anyway.
5 years ago?
Yeah. So
Okay.
everybody's looking around to see who it is. And all of a sudden you stand straight up and the place went nuts. Everybody thought, we're going to get to see Troy and this guy go for free. And it was awesome. And I remember because I don't know how good a shape the boy was in, or you, but you stayed right in the middle of his chest the whole time, and it was really exciting to get to see you go, like that and stuff, and still show people, hey, we still can do this, and
Yes,
help
sir.
out where we can.
Oh,
Do
yes,
you remember the gentleman? He was a young, small, black gentleman. I don't think he was from this area.
5, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I can't either.
I
but-
fought a couple of guys, so
Yeah,
it's hard to remember.
but it was kind of like it was staged nearly because it was a pause and everybody was looking
Oh,
around.
was it Sante Wilson?
No, I know Sante.
Well,
no, it
he's
wasn't
a
him.
friend of mine now.
Yeah, Sante, we've known for a long, long time,
Yeah.
It wasn't him. It was a young gentleman that I didn't recognize. And I don't remember if he was a local or what, but evidently he might not have been because his fighter didn't get to make it there. Something happened on the way or something, but it turned out really good.
Well, thank you.
Good. And
Thank you.
that was one of the ones that I wanted to make sure that, and Ginger said, make sure you tell that story because, it was.
Isn't that unbelievable? I mean, I don't know, say unbelievable, but it's just. So your wife said that, and and the lady who helps me out with the podcast here, it's the question.
She put that question up there. and I'm glad she did.
I guess someone wanted to hear it.
Well, my intentions were to make me a list, to so I wouldn't lose train of thought. I was telling you earlier, I just turned 75, and sometimes I don't have Alzheimer's. I have sometimes. Sometimes I remember, sometimes I don't.
Sometimes you don't. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of my favorites, and of course I've got to see you box and stuff too throughout the years, and as Steve and Connie Parks and me and Ginger went to watch one of your fights, and I don't guess you had fought in a little while, because after the fight was over, you won a fight, but you was taking your gloves and stuff off, and your hands were swollen real bad. We thought maybe you'd broke your hands, but I guess fighters, if they're not used to making that contact, the body or the hand don't know how to absorb a lot of that, and then you'll get it swelling until it gets used to that.
Well, so I had problems with my hands. A lot of times I broke my hand on one of the Jorge Paz fights, and several times I had my hand just swell up. When I took the gloves off, it was very, very because your hand. So this is the gloves that I fought in, the 8-ounce gloves.
Yeah.
I could feel the bones in their head when I hit them.
Yeah.
So there's not much protection on those boxing gloves, 8-ounce boxing gloves.
I know, and by the time they get through, I didn't fight a whole lot of pro. I had a pro fight when Full Contact first came out, and they wrapped my hands and put those gloves on, and I thought, this ain't fair, because it felt like a rock. I thought it would be better without anything. I don't think it was as hard as they get when they get through wrapping them, because man, they, like you said, it's like what was his name, Duran, Fists of Stone.
Oh yeah.
There's a reason they say that, because they are. Yeah, like you say, the little 8-ounce and stuff, and then you get your hand in there and it's wrapped.
And then you probably fought above middleweight, so you were using 10-ounce gloves.
Well,
but only 2 ounces is not much more padding.
It was a lot heavy. It was on one of Grandmaster Burleson's first Full Contact teams.
Oh yeah.
And we were fighting Houston.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that too much, but it was an incident that happened during the fight that and you train nearly 7 days a week. You try to give yourself a day's rest every other week or something, and running and all that. Well, I'll just cut to the chase. Anyway, I'm fighting this young kid of Minshew's, Grandmaster Minshew's, and I've never seen him, so I figured they pulled a boxer or somebody in on him. And I caught him with a rear leg front kick, and then followed up with that right hand, and he started going down, So, never fought a pro fight, fought lots of tournament stuff. So I started chasing him. And he caught me in the side or something, and I went down, and Grandmaster Burleson said, "Billy, it's okay, just settle down. So I thought, okay. So when Skipper Mullins got to 6, 7, 8, I stood up, went to go back out there, and he said, "That's it, fight's over."
Huh.
I said,
You thought you
"That
were
was an
okay?
8 count." He said, "Well, at halftime, that was the second half of the evening, we changed a 10 count to an 8 count. You didn't get the memo?" I went, "Oh."
Huh.
So I thought, if you don't knock them out, there's some way they can work it where you don't win. And I said, this ain't for me.
Oh yeah.
It was taking a lot away from my family. I had a wife and 2 kids, and working a job and help run a school for Mr. Bramer,
And you had lots of things in the fire.
A lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, enough about me. Let's get back to you. Remember when we had this little tournament there in Burleson, and a lot of us small schools kind of did inter-school tournaments. And one of the techniques that was going around right then that you were throwing, because I remember you fought Keith, Bachelor.
Okay.
Keith had great kicks and legs and stuff, and pretty good hands. He fought for Paul Stevens in gloves, and did real good. But you had that where it was just an overhead ridge hand, and I mean it came like a chop, right through their blocks and stuff, and that's what you was beating him with, and stuff. That overhand. Yeah. He had them kicks and stuff, but that it's weird how it comes in too, because you can use either hand and go southpaw and make it even harder.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it is about southpaws and right-handed people. To me, when I would fight them, it just didn't look right coming you know, like even a reverse punch, you know, rear hand, you think, well, do I block with this one? Do I block with that one? You know? So that's one of the advantages I think lefties have.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so
You got the southpaw.
you got to work on them to get with that.
Okay, so let's see here. What's one lesson from your journey in martial arts that you wish more young fighters understood today?
The thing that got me was, you know, I remember when we'd be putting in schools for Grandmaster Burleson all over Fort Worth and everywhere else, and we'd all go in and help sew the mat together. We'd use carpet padding, you know,
Oh, yeah.
and then sew carpet together, whatever we had to do to get this puzzle down, and then they would get
So you're saying
canvas over it.
I know what you're talking about, but they may not know what you're talking about. So instead of having a mat, you had shag carpet.
Oh yeah, well, whatever you could find to go under. A lot of them used just the carpet. Of course, a lot of the schools was just, you know, wooden floors and stuff.
Right.
I know Mr. Kerbin's in Arlington, I think, was a wooden floor when I
yes,
visited
sir.
it, and then Jay Tromley's school there off of Seminary, his was a
yeah,
wooden
what?
floor.
Yes, sir.
I thought, other than sliding and slipping, maybe. But you know, you learn how to fall, because we was at the YMCA. We didn't have any of that special
It was
stuff.
concrete.
I think it was concrete. You'd learn how to fall, and you would drop that elbow one time. You notice that hand's got to be there first.
Oh, yeah.
But stuff like that. But the thing that got me, and I didn't intend to put 50-something years into martial arts. I just had a guy I worked with, was doing some of it, and he was working with me a little bit at lunch breaks and stuff. And then I got into it, and I was just like, I was so, I watched the demo. It was Grandmaster Burleson. I thought, how can anybody punch that fast?
Oh, yeah.
And he was breaking boards and bricks, and I'm just like, wow. But growing up, I had been to my 7th school, and I was, a lot of people don't believe this one time,
You're
but
talking about this public school. You're talking
yeah,
about that
public
school.
schools when I was in school, and I was really bashful, and it's hard to imagine, but
That's not the Billy Smith that is today.
that you know
Not
today.
bashful.
No.
So would you say that helped your confidence, right?
Yeah, I remember. I guess it was just elementary school. I had moved. This was the 3rd or 4th school, and I broke my teeth off on a chin-up bar in a swing when I was a kid. So they called me Snag, and the girls would sing that song, Billy Boy, you know, where have you been? That would embarrass me, but I noticed one day everybody was laughing over in the corner. I thought, what are they laughing at? So I went over there. Good friend of mine now, he's passed, great, since 5th grade. He was a great guy. He was named Billy Fred Venable. Well, he was telling jokes. And these people were loving it and laughing. I'm thinking, wait a minute. They're laughing with him and not at him.
Right, like
So
they
I
were
thought,
laughing at you.
I'm going to start remembering jokes. So I kind of used them as my shield, you know, or
yeah.
if something would happen, or even something derogatory towards me, I could turn it around and make a joke out of it, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So then when I got into martial arts, it was just like pouring gasoline on the fire,
Oh, yeah.
because that just cut me loose there with the confidence that, you know, martial arts gives you, you know, and everybody tries to instill that into you, you know. But the thing about getting at is I didn't intend to be 50 plus years in it and receiving the 10th degree, and but you when you start off and you start helping, and then you see the need that these kids have for help, especially with say stepchildren or adopted children or whatever, because
Single mothers
well,
raising their kids.
exactly. I had a mom that raised 4 kids as a car hop at a Long Star Drive-In. I said, but she tried to make up for that. I had 4 stepdads. So I tease it that in Webster's dictionary, if there was a picture, there'd be a picture of me like this, you know, just jokingly about stepdads. But I would always instill in the parents, whether you're stepdad or blood or what, I said, don't ever hold back saying you love this kid.
Right.
You know, because
Encouraging and
oh yeah, they need
smiling
that. They need
pat
that.
on the back.
They need that. So when I would see that and the confidence that Mr. Bramer gave me, you know, and stuff, I wasn't a real easy student. I had to learn just about everything, but the only thing that was advantage to that was that I wasn't going to forget how to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a guy out there that's a natural, and he'll do something. Well, for instance, we were talking about Keith Batchelor earlier. Incredible sidekicks and flexibility. Knocks on my door one day. He said, I forgot how to throw a sidekick. Can you show me? I said, you want me to show you how to do a sidekick? He said, yes, sir. I said, okay. So we cleared my den area out, and we got out there, and then about 30 minutes into it, he said, okay, I got, no, you started this. So lots of times, and you'll attest to this, you'll start going into a routine, and you get locked into that zone, and you ain't gonna stop till you're through.
Right.
So I think it was like 3 hours later, when we got through,
The sidekick.
and he wasn't going to forget how to do a sidekick again.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I think it didn't even improve mine, just from the practice. Oh,
Exactly.
yeah. Oh, yeah, like them tight chambers.
Being the teacher it allows you to be a student also.
That's right.
Oh, this is what, because you got to figure out what ingredients, and it's not just one ingredient. It's one kick, but it's got has at least 3 or 4 or 5 ingredients in it.
Yeah, I think it was Joe Lewis that said, he'd go in these tournaments, he'd just take 3 to 5 techniques.
Yeah.
Not you'd think he's got a gazillion, he's Joe Lewis.
Right.
But he'd use those 3 or those 5, and like you're saying, we'd change it up a little bit, make it do, because then you get into your setups, because you used to throw a turn heel kick and turn crescent a lot.
Yes, sir.
And you would set them up for that fake of a crescent into a heel kick or a side kick or something, and score with it. Because you hit them there several times, they're going to start blocking it.
Oh, yeah.
But she was always good with that, with combinations and stuff. And the thing that amazed me is that boxing people probably didn't understand you grunting, and we'd call it a little ki, But you knew what it did. You knew how it channeled that energy and stuff for you.
Yeah.
And every time you was throwing punches, you could hear you.
Yeah. So when you lift weights, what do? You don't hold your breath. You exhale.
That's right.
You exhale.
That's
so
right.
when you exhale, what do? You get more power.
Yeah.
That's why I did that. So
I had the luxury or the whatever to train a little bit with boxing on Paul Stevens.
Yeah.
And I'd be getting ready for a tournament or something. And you talk about letting the air out and stuff. He would have me on the table, and he'd have that medicine ball, and he's bouncing it, off of me, and I'm getting where I'm taking it. He's saying, absorb it. If you tighten up like a balloon, you're going to pop like one.
Oh, yeah.
So he said, this ain't working. So I know you've done this too. Anyway, he got me off the table, got me out there in the ring, and came to me and was taking shots, hooks to the body, and I would take it, and I started backing off, and he said, no, come to me. I said, what? But then when you see, you going, whoa, I'm taking that shot.
Yeah.
So you learn how to do that while you're out there, and Mr. Bramer always talking about, you want to breathe, but it's a control, like shallow breathing. You don't want to expend all your breath and energy, because your adrenaline's going, it's going to rob you if you let it.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to try to keep that beast down a little bit so you can last longer and stuff. So
Exactly. So I remember the first time I heard, when you're fighting, you have to relax. What?
yeah.
How does someone relax? Well, I learned how.
Yeah, because,
that's
like
it.
you said, you boxed.
Yeah.
And those guys, those hands set like guns on a ship.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's that hip and that body, because a lot of boxers, they'll look at different parts of the body. A lot of them, I think Hidrogo used to tell me he'd watch the hips, because if that hip's moving, something's coming in here
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So you can see
Yes,
see
sir.
what's going on.
What I did is I watched right here.
Yeah.
That's where, so when they're kicking and punching, that's where I always watched. Yeah. So you
Yeah,
can see
because it'll
coming.
tell everything's going to go on about it,
Oh, yes, sir.
It's all right, but like you said, to relax, you think, well, you'd have to for, 12 rounds now. It used to be, 15?
Used to be 15, yes, sir.
Yeah, and then before that, it was unlimited, I think, back when it first started,
Until you couldn't go anymore.
Yeah. So you've got to learn how to use breath control and all that stuff. It comes with your training, and you're lucky if you get somebody that has experienced a lot of that and can tell you.
Right.
You'd be getting out there doing something like just doing your forms, and you're going through your first one, and we did Chunji forms,
Right.
And then when you get through with Chunji, they're going, and you thought, Well, you forgot to breathe.
You're breathing the whole time.
You forgot.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, so then you figure you got 9 more, so you learn. You learn to control that. You know, there's a lot of people think you just put gloves on, get out there and start swinging.
No.
That ain't it. No. Fact, cause when
It's
the gear first came,
it's a science.
yeah. Well, when we first got that gear, everybody thought they were going to be boxers, and they were bad at it.
Yeah.
You know, it was sloppy there for a long time until things finally came back around to where it was just for their protection. You know, because I missed the deals where you could get a chop across the shoulder or that ridge hand and control it. Or you turn heel kick and just stop that. You know, a lot of people say, I got a good turn heel rack. I said, well, can you control it and stop it? What do you mean stop it? You know. Well,
You mean stop?
stop it.
Yeah. When you're hitting somebody, yeah.
I was, you know, you learn even with those that you got to have a follow-up. I remember one time I was fighting in Oklahoma, and this was a stout guy. And I threw that turn heel kick and just sat down, and he was waiting. And he gutted me, and I went down, and as I'm down, and I'm saying, did I get the kick in? They said, yes, good. So, and Burma always said, you got to have a follow-up after that heel kick, or you're going to get blasted, you know. So, little things like that, you know, closed stance, open stance, you know, we had fun doing a lot of that. But I remember when you and your brothers came to the Forest Hill School, y'all were eager to learn, and I enjoyed, you know, working with you. And you made a comment the other day that you wasn't sure if you was going to stay, but when you met me, I made it fun.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I've always been this way. Sometimes Mr. Brymer would have to get on to me.
Yeah.
He said, you
You're
can't
more
be
serious.
Yeah, he said, you can't be their friend and their instructor.
Yeah.
I said, why not? He said, you can't. I might have mentioned it the first time we were talking. I said, you're going to have to take them because they're not going to pass this test. So I understood what he meant. Bow off the mat, be their best friend if you want to. Bowing in, you got a responsibility of getting them where they're supposed to be, so you got to be the instructor first.
Oh, yes, sir.
Kind of like a parent. You know, be a parent first, friend later. You know?
Yes,
so
sir.
that's all important.
So let's see, who in your life has been your biggest influence on and off the mat? So I guess we'll start off with on the mat.
Okay.
Who's your biggest influence? You might have 5 or 6. But
Well, I had a few guys as far as fighters that influenced me to get better because they were tough.
Who's that?
Pat Hardy, Super Hawk, or back then, now they call him Pat Hawk Hardy.
Yeah.
You know, he was a big old Marine, probably 230. And I told him at the time I weighed maybe 170. He said maybe one leg. I said, no, I just look big in a gi. But Pat Hardy, he would push me to be better and better and better, you know, because he was so powerful and strong. And then Lewis Arnold, you know, Pat and Lewis, and I got to fight Ross Scott once, but Lewis Arnold and me, we would battle it out all the time, and maybe he'd get me by 1 point or something. I never did beat Lou, but lots of times we'd shake after it's over, and he would say, Billy, I'm sorry. I say, hey, it's okay. You know, I know what he's saying he was sorry about. You know, sometimes you got to beat the fighter and the judges. But but that was okay because we were buddies. You know, and Hawk he would make you work. He would go up to the judges and say, hey, we're heavyweights. Let us go a little bit. This was just brown belts.
Oh yeah.
I thought, golly, and my jaw still popped from him hitting me.
Just that popped on?
Oh, yeah. It's still, used to have a pretty good, strong jaw, but now if it gets touched, you know, just right, I'm going down.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I used to love it that I could take a shot, you know, but, you know, a lot of people will tell you, I ain't never been knocked out. I just say, you just ain't fought enough. That's all. You just ain't ran into the right guy.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But, now, those guys is what really pushed me. Of course, Mr. Brymer, you know, he was the kind of guy that he would just sit back. But he ran Grandmaster Burleson's tournaments, Texas State and his little tournament. He did all the mail-outs and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, us as a school would help set up the rings and stuff, you know. But Billy was, he didn't ask for attention or nothing. But he was really smart in some of the things that he would tell you and do. I remember one time we were just sparring, and I was chasing this guy. And he said, "Why are you chasing him?" I said, "I want to hit him." He said, "Well, does it feel good to hit him?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What if he came to you?" I went, "Oh." It's goosebumps.
Oh, yeah.
He said, and guys, if you will, listen to this part and try it in class. He said, when that hand goes down, if you want him to come to you, you don't step across that line, you step back. And he said, never make a forward step, go sideways, laterally, or back, and he'll come like a magnet.
Right.
And sure enough, they do. You know, so I didn't have to chase them anymore.
Right.
But I'd always act like I didn't even want to get in there, you know, have that fear look, so that even draws them in more.
That would, that's right.
Oh yeah. So whatever, and to me it was like games, you know.
Oh, it's a game.
How you can play it, like in when you're boxing, usually they say, well, they're doing filling each other out,
Right.
you know, first or second round, because after so long during all of those sparring matches, if you've got a bad habit, it'll come to you somewhere, and it'll revert back, and then you'll see that, you know, and stuff. So, a lot of things to remember, but get a lot of. If you want to be good at sparring, spar a lot,
Right.
you know, and work with your students. Don't try to, you know, you need them to have them for sparring partners and stuff. Right. So, I imagine what Brian and Rodney, did they spar with you some, or did y'all have a lot of guys in the gym?
Me and Brian especially, because we were 1 year apart. So yeah.
Yeah, and of course Brian fought full contact and stuff
sir.
too.
Yes,
He
sir.
was a good little fighter too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You had a super neat family. Everybody you were great to us. Every time we'd see y'all or something, everybody was nice. And I was really glad that when Jim, wasn't glad that he moved to Duncanville, but that brought y'all to the Forest Hill School.
Right,
where we
that's
got a
how I
chance
met
to,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's how we got a chance to be part of each other's lives, and that's one of the biggest journeys, folks, that you'll get is what can I do to help this kid as a student and be a mentor for him, for his personality and stuff to get So all that, if you're thinking about getting in, a lot of people get a black belt and then they want to open up a school. Well, you yourself know this. Black isn't the final destination. That's just the beginning. It starts making sense to you.
Right.
You know, so we try to tell them that. So even at my school, and we've changed it a little bit, we'll have all our belts across there, and it, you know, of course the white belt, but then we've added a gold. We used to just have orange.
Right.
But that gold is 10. And everybody has different color rankings, but it goes all the way from 10 down to 1,
Right.
and then from 1 back up to 10. But if you just look at that first black up there, the kids, they're visual.
Oh, yeah.
They see that, okay, man, all I got to do is get to there.
Yeah.
You need to show them, no, you got 9 more if you want to hang into this, you know. But sometimes people say, well, they get their black belt and they leave. But look what they did. They gave, depending on the system, ours was early 3.5, you know,
Right.
to 4 years between belts and stuff. But they've given you, as a kid or even adults,
Lots of hours.
3 or 4 years of their life to you.
Yeah.
So and I might be selfish when I say, if they don't want to be in there, I don't want them in there.
And well, if they don't want to be there, I think it's their fault.
Yeah, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that can put you on a guilt trip, and it's nothing that we did wrong. It's just that, hey, that was the journey they took, and that's as far as they wanted. Because you and me, we want more for them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they think, oh, just that black. No, we want more for them. We know more is there. Right. So sometimes we'll hang on to them a little bit and push them a little bit more, and then they see that.
Right.
You know, and then pretty soon it's a life journey.
Exactly.
And that's what makes it so nice. I mean, you know, the fighting and stuff was fun, but then you got to learn how to, like you have and been successful for us, rechanneling that energy into teaching.
Right.
You know, and teaching others how to do it. You know, and obviously you're really good at it, and I've been blessed to have the gift of gab. And
Oh yeah, you are too. You are. I mean, that's one reason I'm here. One reason I'm still
Well,
here. I don't know if I would.
glad.
I don't know if I would have been able to. I don't know. I could have, but I'm not sure if I would have wanted to continue, because when you stop, A lot of times, just take some time off. I'll wait later till we can go to Duncanville.
Yeah,
But
might not
you
have
were, you were there. You were there for me, so
Well,
that was
I'm
good.
glad I was. That's why
Yeah.
we want to preach and tell these dads and moms to be there for that kid.
Oh yes, sir.
You know, the saying that it takes a village, it's the truth.
Oh yes, sir.
You know, so any way that we can help these parents with the children, because nowadays both parents are working, you know, and they come home and they got all this to do and all that. So if we can take a little of that load off of them, whether it is to have the kids having better manners and to love and learn to accept a lot of things that are going on and to help
Right.
the mom and the dad, you know, then that's the journey that we want to go on to.
Yeah, that's what we look for. It's not. I don't remember about the highest kicker that I've ever had. I don't remember that, but I remember some kids that really hundreds of kids that just really changed their life.
Oh yeah.
I learned about learning about self-control and being respectful and being kind and doing their best.
Yeah, just any kind of deals that you went through for celebration. You know, even I still have the pictures on my phone of your 10th here.
Oh yeah.
You know, the response of the people that came, not just area. You know,
Right.
this was shortly before Mr. Harrison had passed. He was here.
He was here, yes,
You know,
sir.
and Mr. Burleson.
Yes, sir.
And then, of course, Ray that we just lost.
2 3 weeks
Lord,
ago.
take care of him. He was there. Everybody that knew and loved you was here for you.
Yeah.
And I did run into Rodney. I hadn't seen in a while, and he said, I said, hey, I'm Billy Smith. He said, yeah, you're that funny guy. I thought, well, he remembered that as a kid.
That made you feel good, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, if you can make it fun, you don't
yeah.
have to be belly holding, rolling laughter, but encourage them to say, well, look at it this way. It's going to be a game. Let's play this game.
Yeah.
See how good we got.
Right.
Mr. Bramer always told me, he said, try to leave them with something new. He says, but if you're going to critique somebody, don't go up there and say, no, you're doing all this wrong, you know.
Yeah, right.
You know, just say, hey, man, what you're doing is really good, but, you know, Mr. Bramer showed me this little trick.
Right.
If you'll add that to that, lights out, and they go, okay.
So you just said it. You just said it. I learned being in the business part of martial arts, and I want to say business because I love martial arts. That's why I did it. That's why I do it for a living. But if there's students when they leave the school, if they're sweating and they're smiling, you did your job.
That's right. That's right.
That's what you got to do.
I
Sweat.
tell people when we was at the YMCA, you know, we had ceiling fans, and that was about it. Well, you had that indoor track, and I think 50 laps could have been just a mile, but I guess it was.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty
Probably
small.
so. Yeah.
So anyway, I would weigh myself, do that, and then go into class.
Oh.
And then when class was over,
Do it again.
I would weigh myself.
Oh.
And I mean, it's hard to believe, but every night I'd lose 5 pounds of sweat.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and we'd be leaving there. If somebody wanted to try to rob me on the street, I said, I can't reach it, but it's in that pocket right there. You're so tired, you know. But like you said, hey, then you got your job done. I just always remembered, and a lot of people may not have ever experienced this, but you have what we call second wind.
Oh yeah.
You know, and if you haven't pushed yourself far enough to get that, you'd have no idea what that does, man.
Right.
And we would leave the gym, and of course they had a pool and everything in there. We was the only ones in there, so we'd hit the showers and the pool, you know, and then leave from there. But that pool was kind of like a cold plunge for us, you know, where we could at least walk out of there, you know.
Yes, sir.
But I tell students nowadays, if I was to push y'all that hard, I said I'd probably lose half of you.
Right.
You know, 'cause a lot of them aren't in there for physical fitness; they're in there just for self-defense or like we're talking about confidence. You
Yes,
know,
sir.
so it depends on what each one's journey is, and they can reach more goals through that. You know, it might not intentionally start off like I was lucky. Even as an orange belt, instructors would use me to work with the new guys and stuff.
Right.
But what I realized what they were doing is whatever I've learned, I should be able to show somebody else.
Right.
So that when you're doing that, you go, well, that's why Mr. Bremer says do this and that, because if you don't, that doesn't work right.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So yeah, if you can, anybody lower than you in belt rank and all, you should be able to help them get there. You know.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, it's a team. It's a team. There's no I in team, is there?
No.
No. So, do you have a standout match or rivalry that really stuck with you?
Yeah, I may have covered it in the first deal, but well, there's actually two stand out. But fighting Ross Scott, you know, I vaguely knew who he was,
Right.
and I was out in the hall getting water. I was, I exhausted myself on. I think I had 2 fights, and evidently he'd gotten a bye, but it was hard to get my attitude where it should have been.
Yeah.
And he knocks me out.
He was good at doing that.
He was.
Yeah.
Big hands, big, strong young guy. Anyway, I can hear the ref 4 and Hardy, Pat, saying, "Get up, Smith." And, of course, in the bleachers, my lovely wife saying, "You dummy, get up." So when I got up, I was in the right frame of mind. Then I was fired up.
Yeah.
And then when we went to go again, I was ripping his gi off and just pounding him, you know. And he was like in shock, like, what? And then, of course, I think it was Mr. Kenny was his instructor.
Oh, Glenn Kenny?
Yes, sir. And he said, "Man, when you get a guy hurt like that, you need to finish him." And I could see Scott like, "Finish him?" He said, "I just made him mad."
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't win, but Hawk fought him next, and Hawk beat him. You know?
Okay.
But yeah, the guys like that, you know, you have to learn to train and get your body up. And I found that's been good and bad in my life. I mean, I used to be a truck driver, had CDL. Well, with sleep apnea, I had to test every year.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and before the test, you know, I'm getting myself up, you know. And they go in there and take my blood pressure, and they go, whoa, let's give you about 30 minutes rest here. And they'd come back, and it's still crazy. And finally, I said, well, just call my doctor. I'm sure it's going to be all right. So they do. He said, oh, he's just excited.
Yeah.
He's just ready to pass this test. Test him.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I have to look out for that because I can get that blood pressure up, whatever it takes for that chore.
Yeah, it's like
and that guy said that,
rush.
you know, just a milk crate full of weights. He said, you know, you carried 100 pounds from there to here. I said, I'd carried more if you could put it in that basket because I was not going to, fail that test.
Yeah.
And that's from the training of martial arts. You want to be the best at everything you can do.
Right, do your best. Exactly.
And me and Keith, we were hanging rock together, and we didn't let nobody beat us.
Yeah.
You know, and then when we got to the union, the guy said, "Hey guys, you know your union now." I said, "Yeah, we appreciate it, good pay and everything, you know." He said, "We're only supposed to hang." I think it was 12 sheets a day. I thought.
What'd you do?
I said, "We do that before break." He said, "We know. Slow down."
Yeah.
I thought, "I'm sorry, I can't do that." Yeah,
That's given 100%. That's been given 100%, right?
Always. You know, same thing if you're testing a student. I know a lot of systems went to that 15 rounds, and I think, oh. Bremer always said there's not 15 rounds in the street. But if you know you can't do that 15th round, you're not going to pass. So lots of times they're holding back so much.
Yeah.
And the way Mr. Bremer did us is that he put us out there, wasn't a time on it. Is if you gave everything you had every time and they're having to drag you off, that's what he wants. And it's going to be less fights because you're really trying.
Right.
But to take a student, now a lot of y'all won't agree with this, but when you take a student and you're teaching him how to protect himself, you got parents and grandparents paying you to do that, to groom him to this big moment for his black belt test, and then you beat the thunder out of him. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I say, show me what they've been paying for. Show me what you've learned.
Yeah.
And it may be 3 to 5 fights maybe.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're looking sloppy, I want you to come out of it. It may be more. But if I say, get up, get back on the line, and you can barely stand, I may say, okay, that's good. I just want to see if you would go. I want to see what's here.
Right.
I want to see what's here.
On the inside.
Yeah, and of course, nobody has a bigger heart and drive than you, Troy.
Thank you.
You've always been a great example and a super person to kids to look up to and stuff, you know. We've got a lot of us karate guys, you know, or karate bums or whatever, you know, we sacrifice a lot of our things at home, maybe.
Our time with their family, yeah.
Yeah, time with family. People, they go, well, wait a minute, it's 4th of July. We're going to, I say, I know, but a bunch of the schools are going to be at Mr. Breimer's. We used to sit on his roof. He had an underground home.
Oh, yeah.
And we could see it there at Benbrook. You could see downtown Fort Worth.
Fireworks, you can see them from there.
Everywhere. Of course, like I was talking about earlier, Steve would always buy a bunch of them too. And Steve Parks, and we'd shoot them off, you know. So, yeah, being a mentor is, I guess if you looked it up in Webster's, it would explain a little bit better than what I can, but it's not just being an instructor. It's being there to help them with life. You know, I remember when I was a kid growing up, one of my stepdads said, you're going to find out when you get out of high school and get out in the world, people ain't as nice as you think they are.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because I would just treat people like I wanted to be treated. And, of course, then I found out later on people try to take advantage of that, or that's what he was getting at, you know.
I can guarantee you that's the way you still are. That's the golden rule. That's what Jesus Christ said.
That's right.
Treat others the way you want to be treated. That's the definition of respect. So
somebody, I guess, Jamie Cashin said, you know, Billy, everybody that I meet and mention you or whatever, he says, they like you. I said, well, I'm glad. That means I'm doing it right. Because I want to treat them like I want to be treated, you know. And then there's some people that would try to take advantage of that or whatever. So you just got to be, you know, watch out. You know, there's certain steps you can take, and then you've done that part.
Well, as long as you do your best, when you go to sleep that night.
Yeah.
If you didn't do your best and you didn't do what you're supposed to do, then you don't sleep very good.
And that, you know, that's what we do our students when they go to tournament. If you win or lose, just do your best.
That's it.
Not you didn't win, well, you out of here. You know, all I ask is just do your best.
Do your best. That's it. Yes, sir.
That's where I'm trying to get you at.
That's martial arts overall.
Yeah, there's no.
I believe the overall thing. What we do is just
instead of grades A, B, C, D, E, F, well, or not E, but Fs, but. We have the belts.
Yeah.
That's our ABCs. You know,
yes, sir.
Pretty much.
What about when you were training? Who pushed you the hardest in training or in competition, and how did that shape you?
Well, Mr. Breimer, and then I had guys, stablemates like Brax, Dr. Boyd, and Jim. You know, we would do our running and stuff, and then Jim would hold a bag and stuff for me, do rounds and stuff in the school. But I remember Mr. Breimer and a guy named Murphy came into school, and I'm jumping rope, you know. And little guys want to be big, big guys want to be little. You know, it's where if you got straight hair, you want curly hair, whatever it is. But I'm out there, you know, and
human trait.
Yes, I'm fighting light heavy at 178 pounds, and that's just. I tell everybody I was built like a big Bruce Lee. You know, I had long, lanky arms, and if somebody that ever watched Hearns, remember how he was built? And I was kind of that way, and I kept telling them, man, I just want to get bigger. And they said, no, you're perfect right there. Yeah. And I didn't understand what they meant.
Yeah.
But yeah, that lightweight and that reach that I had.
Yeah, so God made you that way.
Exactly.
Well, He made me almost opposite.
Yes.
You're long and lanky. I'm short and squatty.
That's right. but it worked for us.
Oh yeah, we made it work for us. We didn't say I'm too short. I didn't. Of course, there's times that I was thinking I was too short, or I would say to myself, you know, we had that voice in your head.
Oh yeah.
We have the voice in our head. I'm sure you had the voice in your head many times. It's the enemy telling us you can't.
Yeah.
There's, you know, in the Bible it doesn't say you can't.
No.
It says you can.
That's right.
So
when you had the right amount of people to snap you out of that, slap you around, and come on, just like I hadn't seen you in a little while, and you was telling a story about me at the Forest Hill School, and I said, Troy still calls me Mr. Smith, and I keep telling him, you don't have to call me Mr. Smith. You're Troy Dorsey. So,
Well, thank you.
So proud to have been any part.
Well, you had a part of it. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So the proof is in the pudding. If you get out there and put the time in and your efforts in and teach from your heart, and a lot of schools parents can tell the difference between a school that teaches from love and those that teach for that dollar to come in there, and I was a pretty good instructor. Definitely wasn't in management, so I just said, Lord, here's the deal. You keep my doors open, I'll keep doing this for you.
Sir.
And then I didn't realize that's what he had planned for me. That was my journey.
Yeah.
I've said it a lot of times. I said, Lord, please, I don't want to be a preacher. So he made me a teacher.
Oh, yeah.
I think I got on his deafer side, and he thought I said teacher, so he made me a teacher.
You don't have a different side.
No, he don't.
You just did exactly You just did exactly what you're supposed to do.
That's right. I just say it whatever makes me feel comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
But he's got a plan.
Yeah.
He's got a plan. And like I said, when I started martial arts, I wanted it because I got tired I fought everywhere I went. 7 schools, you're the new guy. You're the new guy. And plus, we teeth busted up and all. And finally, after I got out of high school.
It was different than it is now.
Oh, yeah.
Teachers could spank you and could
We talk about the difference in paddles. They had your basic wooden one.
Right.
And then to modify it, they'd drill holes in it. That way it'd take meat when it came off. And then the fiberglass one.
Oh, wow.
That he could catch you on this side and it would wrap all the way around the other side. Yeah, and that was from fighting. I'd had to go to the principal's office, but I never could. Growing up the way I did, I just hated bullies.
Yeah.
We was talking about getting licks. I got licks in the 3rd grade because I got a guy that was picking on kids and met him after school. Well, I went home. He went to school. And the principal just saw him, heard the deal, and it was... Of course, my teacher asked, please don't whip him.
Oh, yeah.
He said, oh, yeah. 3rd grade, I'll never forget his name, Mr. Bell, and he rang mine.
I bet he did.
That first lick just took my air and everything, man.
Yeah.
So, didn't learn a lesson because the next school, there was a similar situation. The guy was messing with a girl, I think, this was in junior high, and I think she might have got in trouble where she lived, and they moved there, and he just kept on messing with her. And I said, man, why don't you leave her alone? He said, why don't you meet me after school? I said, okay.
Yeah.
I said, and another boxing buddy of yours, I went to school with Nick Wells.
Okay.
We were buddies, played football and stuff together. Anyway, I'm at my locker and I hear this, hey, Billy. And I said, yeah, it's Nick. He's like, hey, you got to fight after school. I said, yeah. He said, do you mind if I go? I said, no. In case there's more than one, I got Nick Wells.
Oh, yeah.
So we went, and this guy, he was new to the school, and he was a thug. And reminds you of the one in Roadhouse. The dark-headed guy that was at the gathering that day, I got to meet him. But anyway, the guy says, I'm not going to let you fight so-and-so because you're bigger than him. I'm going to fight for him. And Nick's standing there listening to this. He said, well, wait, let me get this straight. You're going to fight for him because Billy's bigger than him. I think I'll fight for Billy because you're bigger than Billy is. Yeah. What do you think of that? He goes, have you ever had your rear end whooped? I'm making this nice. And he said, nope, and it ain't going to be today. Well, there was no fight. Yeah. So we went on.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Bully after bully after bully, y'all, it's real easy if you'll just tell these kids, look, as a group, you don't have to say, if you see something going wrong, you just need to say something.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid that, hey, all of you say something, because if you know it's wrong, say something.
Yeah.
And that can make a big difference, because there's so many suicides and stuff from all of this knowledge in the internet and stuff and people can just be so mean, bullying verbally,
Right.
you know, and that sometimes is hard or worse
Oh, yeah.
than a physical bullying.
Right.
But the physical bullying, when we were in school and stuff, we'd have a fight with somebody, become best buddies after that, and we'd go on.
Right.
You know, sometimes if you let the kids handle it, it gets done.
Let kids be kids, yeah.
Yeah, you know, but if not, then support them. You know, do whatever. It's not hard to feel out of place or that something's wrong if it's wrong.
Right.
So just stand up for what's right, and we're stronger together.
Right.
You know.
Yes, sir. So you just reminded me of something. You know what love is? Love is time. So parents, time with your children is love.
Oh yeah.
So I want to encourage that. Any of you fathers or mothers that are watching this that don't get to spend much time with your kid, just always take off sometimes. Take off and take them to lunch. Go eat lunch with them at school.
Yeah, it's
just
like
little things.
we learn after a while that since both parents are working and whatever, and then we learn about quality of time. You know,
Right.
It don't have to be a lot, but the time you do spend, make it worth every minute of it. You know,
Right.
and I always encourage the kids that you love them. You know, and say that to them as much as you can. And when I came into teaching into the Burleson area, I'm sure there was a lot of guys, grown men, that I was teaching who weren't used to hugging.
Right.
And then when I'd bring them in to hug, you know, you could feel that. And then after a while, they're going, okay, it's just a...
Give me a hug.
Yeah, maybe is it 2 pats or 3
Yeah.
on the back, you know? So they started doing that. And then we were talking the other day where that we had a little tournament, and I asked everybody to bow their heads, and I led them in prayer, asking the Lord to place His guiding protective hand over all the competitors and
Right.
family and stuff here. And then I went to another tournament, and I think it was Bobby Nutlin. We've lost Bobby too, but he had a tournament. He said, "Billy, you know that thing you did at your tournament?" I said, "Thing? What thing?" He said, "Well, you know, when you prayed and stuff." I said, "Oh yeah." He said, "Would you do that here?"
Yeah.
I said, "Sure."
Oh, yeah.
And then pretty soon you go to all the time. Everybody hold it. Moment of prayer. Everybody's praying, you know.
Yeah.
So showing that side is not showing a weak side. It's just showing,
no.
hey, I love God. God loves me.
Yeah.
I've got a relationship with Jesus
And
Christ.
you know who's in control.
And Christians aren't wimpy. Look at my students say, look at Steve Parks and Billy Smith.
Right.
My preacher said I wouldn't be afraid to go down any dark alley and in the church at the time was Paul Stevens, Steve Parks, and me. He said, and then of course God. He said I wouldn't be afraid to go anywhere with those guys. you
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Good. Well, I heard this one time, and then we'll end this podcast. So, 7 days make 1 week, WEK. But 7 days without Jesus makes 1 week, WEAK. Yeah.
I'm following you.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a good one. I like.
Well, thank you so
I
much,
like to
man.
end on that one because I don't remember. Can I use that?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Troy.
All right. Thank you all. God
Goodbye,
bless you.
folks.
Keep your eyes on Jesus. He's coming back soon. And we'll look forward to seeing you. If you haven't seen this before, we've been doing this for several years. It's called If the Gloves Could Talk with Troy Dorsey. Thank you, and God bless you.